are live. Make sure to turn that up. Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Real quick, if you can hear me, please put a thumbs up or one in the chat. And let me make sure this is working. Okay, we are good. Looks like it. Perfect. Alright, so if you're new to the channel, welcome. I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. We cover true crime, mystery to the missing. And recently we have been going out and looking for Aidan Clune. If you're not familiar with this case, I will play a short video. For those that have seen it, I have kind of edited it down to, I think, like 3 minutes. But I know more people come in or are not familiar with the case, so I'd like to be able to recap with a video for them. But for those that don't know, we've been searching for him for 2 years now. And was it this week or last week? I can't even remember. All the days are just kind of blended together. But recently, we found the first physical evidence in 2 years in this case, and that was Aidan Clune's shoes. And we'll kind of go over that. And we've been going out and doing grid searches for him, and it's just a matter of time before we find him. And but let me go ahead and play the recap for anybody that's not familiar with this case. Can you turn it up a little, Chris? Sure. Let me see. Let me adjust the mic a little bit. Can you guys, is it good? Oh, Dom says, never mind. Okay, good deal. All right, you can hear me well. So let me just play the recap video real quick while everybody's coming in. Welcome, everybody, and welcome. Thank you to my wonderful mods. Like I said, this is going to be an interesting show. I've been looking over the clues, and there was something that just kind of hit me, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So let me play the recap first, and then we'll go from there. Staying the night at this Motel 6 in the town of Wells. On April 27, 2022, Aidan Clune woke up early and checked out. With the highway close by, he took his truck south on Highway 93, traveling approximately 52 miles into a town called Curry. Aidan abruptly pulled his truck over, unknown as to why he did so, perhaps to take a bathroom break or to clear his mind. Taking his acoustic guitar with him, Aidan likely had not wandered far from the road, leaving his passenger door wide open, meaning he had likely had every intention of returning back to his truck. At approximately 9 a.m., a highway patrol officer saw the red Nissan truck and pulled behind it. It looked abandoned. It's unclear where Aidan was at the time, but it's quite possible that Aidan Clune could have been close by. But because of his recent mental health issues and recent signs of paranoia, Aidan may have saw the trooper with their lights on and may have thought he was in trouble and perceived the trooper as a threat, and the only way to safety was to travel into the vast Nevada desert. Aidan would never return back to his truck that day, nor did he make any contact with anyone. Until the following day, Aidan Clune was declared missing. Search and rescue would be disbanded the following days into the vast desert valley of Curry, Nevada. They would soon find Aidan's tracks leading from where the truck was parked, leading away into the vast desert. Not far from his truck, search and rescue found his acoustic guitar laying in the desert sand. Along with the guitar, more footprints were discovered. They led over what is known as the Palomino Ridge. Aidan was wearing Nike Air Force shoes that had a unique peanut shape and circular shapes on the tread. This was helpful to track, as these were not the average type of footwear one would normally wear in an environment like this. They would track Aidan over the Palomino Ridge into a wide valley. Beyond this valley was the Cherry Creek mountain range, full of brush, heavily wooded areas, unforgiving ridges and peaks. As they continued following his tracks, they noticed some were odd and different to others. They realized that he would take off his shoes and either go barefoot or leave his socks on and walk for a bit, as his tracks changed due to this factor. Furthermore, his tracks would come to a T shape. meaning he'd walk a while, then stop, go left for a bit, then double back on his tracks, which meant it's likely Aiden was trying to throw off anyone who would track him. Even though search and rescue were days behind Aiden, it shows the mental state and possible paranoia Aiden could have been experiencing as he traveled deeper into the unknown and unforgiving mountain range. Search and rescue would eventually track Aiden into this valley south of what is called the burn area. They would lose his tracks after a while, or the weather would get too bad to track, and so they would get more and more behind as days passed on. But eventually they would pick up Aiden's tracks again and followed them into this particular valley that had a creek with fresh water that flows down the mountain into the valley for the livestock. Search and rescue found many tracks wandering all around this valley, some where Aiden was wearing shoes and others where he was barefoot. They would eventually find some tracks leading from the valley west up a steep ridge. From here, they found the last tracks, almost like he was circling a tree, just as signs of Aiden's tracks were plentiful and his presence known. It's as if the vast mountain range of Cherry Creek swallowed them up without cause. Aiden now became a ghost, uprooted from the earth, and now the only signs he was ever there was a few photos taken by search and rescue of his tracks.
Okay, so that was the recap for anybody that's not familiar with this case. And then we'll get into what we found recently, talk about some things, and then we'll get into the big clue that I've been looking at. Excuse me. So recently, we've been going out a lot, and we had finally found the first physical evidence in 2 years since he originally went missing, and that was a pair of shoes. They were found up on the ridge, not far from where his last tracks were at. There had been obviously clearly searches done up in that area, but during that time when they were doing searches, there was still snow up there. That was kind of one of the issues. As a matter of fact, the day that Aiden went up in this area, that evening and the next following days, it actually snowed, rained, snowed. And up in this valley, it's in this area, it's about 8,000 feet above sea level. So the snow comes down, it sticks, even in April, May, even snowed in June. It's just because of that elevation. But we had finally found the first physical evidence. His shoes were found right around this area here. It was a huge find. And here's the shoe here. We got the left shoe. They are Nike Air Force shoes. There was one thing that stood out to us a few days later, looking at the shoes. And we'll do a side-by-side here. Just a second. And that is they're actually, if you look, they're the same type and brand of shoes, but they're actually two different pairs. Apparently Aiden did have multiple pairs of these shoes, and it appears as though he has one shoe from an older pair and one shoe from a newer pair. As you can see, the laces on the left shoe are black or purple. I guess black. They kind of look purple there. And then you kind of got the white gray ones here. But again, they are the same brand of shoe, but mother thinks that he had clearly had two pairs, and one was from a newer and one was from an older one. So that was kind of interesting. Not sure where the other halves are at. I don't think he had two pairs out there with him, because he had walked out there with his guitar. And when the officer trooper had pulled over in the dash cam, or the body cam, excuse me, when she's walking by the truck with the passenger door open, you can actually see his backpack. It's like a red camo backpack. It's actually sitting in the truck. So I don't think he had a backpack with supplies and extra shoes. So I don't think, with him carrying his guitar, I can't see him holding 2 pairs of shoes along with that. But so I think it just kind of goes, for those that are familiar, he was, going through some mental health issues. So, and this just kind of adds to it. Just looking at there's some slightly, the stitching's all the same. If you go and look at the stitching's all the same. I've examined them. And then you got to keep in mind, you see one is an outside shoe and one is the inside. So here, I can't zoom in right now, but that's the Nike symbol right there. But they're only on the outsides. So of course, we don't see it here because we're looking at the inside of the shoe. But they are more or less the same brand of shoe, but they're just, one's an older pair, but they are slightly different. This one actually has a little bit bigger tongue to it, which is kind of weird, where the toes are at. But anyway, besides that, it was a huge find. Of course, law enforcement came out with us the next day to recover the shoes, and then of course we did a bunch of grid searching around the shoes. Unfortunately, we did not find anything that day. About halfway through that day, when there were 6 of us looking for Aiden, and not finding anything,
Gwen Brunell,
it kind of hit me that, it took us this long. It took us 2 years to find the shoes, and it's probably going to take a little bit more effort to find Aiden, because it's just such a vast area and it's tough terrain. So anyway, let's see. Wild Mustang, I've done that before. I had the same brand of shoes, one pair 1 inch bigger than the other pair. I got them mixed up and wearing, I got them mixed together and wearing one each. I was wondering what felt off. Yeah, so that could be exactly what was going on with Aiden. I just want to snag this real quick before we get going. My wonderful mod, Jennifer, member for 25 months. It's so awesome. Chris, you are doing amazing work for victims. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And of course, to everybody being here. It's really amazing. I want to say one thing, something I hate to like to ask, but if you would like to support our mission in finding Aiden, there's PayPal, Venmo, becoming a member, or Patreon. Right now, going out there, it costs a lot of money, and we're going through it like crazy. But I know we can find Aiden. And if you would like to support the cause, there's multiple ways in the description, or you can find out in the chat as well. But I know of a lot of people that have donated a lot throughout these past few weeks. But unfortunately, it costs a lot. But if you guys do, please and thank you so much. So one of the things that sparked, so we've been searching for Aiden for 2 years. But the funny thing is in early May, when we were going to start heading back out or actually after I'd searched for Aiden with the family, I was going to switch gears to another case that we'd been covering, and that was Gwen Brunell. If you're not familiar with the case, we'll just recap it a little bit, because these 2 cases, strangely enough, have a lot of similarities to them. It's pretty wild. So we're going to go ahead and play just a short clip, but me and Ty, we were actually going to go out and look for Gwen Brunell. And so here is Gwen Brunell's story. It's real short.
June. Crews say they found her boots near Sucker Creek in Oregon, where her car and...
Okay. So let me just back up a little bit. Gwen Brunell went missing in Oregon. She's from Idaho. She was going to travel to California, do a rabbit judging contest. She had a Honda Element. She made it into Oregon, about 20 miles, I think, something like that. Maybe it was a little more than that. But just just close to the border of Idaho and Oregon. For some reason, she had pulled over and hadn't been seen for multiple days. They filed a missing persons report. Somebody saw her vehicle. They went to check on it. She wasn't there. Similar situation to Aiden. They find the vehicle, but they don't find the person, the victim or the missing person. And they begin searching, and they don't find anything. And then a few months later, they find her shirt, and then they found her boots.
Crews say they found her boots near Sucker Creek in Oregon, where her car and shirt were also found. The 27-year-old was last seen in Jordan Valley, Oregon, when she bought gas at the Sinclair station. Yesterday, it was announced that Gwen's boots were found on September 22nd by a search helicopter near where the Malheur County Sheriff's Office found her T-shirt just 12 days prior. The update says the boots were found 80 yards away from where the T-shirt was found. Search and rescue volunteers also found her abandoned car in the general area just days after she was reported missing. Brunell is 5'7", about 160 pounds, and has brown eyes and brown hair. If you have any information, you're asked to call the Boise Police Department or the Malheur County Sheriff's Office at the number on your screen.
So here we have a case that we were going to go search. We were going to go search for Gwen Brunell, and then that night, they had announced that they had found her remains, and then luckily my wonderful mods emailed me early in the morning as I was out to travel to Oregon, and saved me a lot of gas money, thank goodness. But they had found her boots, or before they found her remains, they had found her boots and her socks, so she has clearly she's barefoot. So we have a similar situation where we have a case where person exits the vehicle, wanders off, and now the shoes are found, and now it's just a case of, where did they go?
Closure for the family of Gwen Brunell.
And in regards to Gwen Brunell, this year in April, there was a drone team that went out, and it's kind of like what we do, just a small operation. A guy went out with this drone and started doing grid searches and snapping photos, and they ended up finding her remains literally 0.7 miles from the boots.
The Boise woman's body was discovered in eastern Oregon. I'm your neighborhood reporter, Isaiah Sharp. The 27-year-old woman left Boise last June and headed west through the Treasure Valley into Malheur County. Her clothes and car were found soon after, but now, 10 months later, her remains discovered with the help of volunteers. 10 months after 27-year-old Gwen Brunell went missing in Malheur County, her family finally has answers. A volunteer organization, Aloft Drone Search, locating her remains through drone footage of the Sucker Creek area in eastern Oregon. John Jones, the founder of the Oregon-based nonprofit, leading the effort to find the missing woman.
Once we found what we thought were remains, we sent it to the sheriff's office. That's when they got involved with us.
Brunell was last seen on June 26th. Her remains located April 7th, 2 miles from where investigators found her parked car last summer and less than a mile away from her clothes. Aloft Drone Search combing through over 2,000 acres of drone footage provided by Idaho drone company Theravada and spending 4 weeks examining the images.
I mean, sometimes one image.
So just to recap, they, of course, went and found the remains, but kind of interesting. The cases are very similar, and they believe she was also suffering from mental health issues. So it's pretty wild. We got two cases that are so similar, where clearly we don't know with Aiden. He may have socks on, may have been wandering around in his socks, but at the very least, both of them are without the shoes. They're found. They were found, I think. See, I'm trying to think how far the shoes were from her car. I think a mile, approximately. Whereas this one is 9 miles, but still, we have vehicle. Now we have some kind of article of clothing. In this case, shoes with Aiden, just like Gwen Brunell. And now it's just a matter of time of grid searching, within a 0.5 mile radius, then expanding it to a mile radius. But then there was some clues that I've been looking at, and it hit me like a ton of brick. And I think the next time we go out there, this could be the one. Christina Strife, member for 12 months, a whole year. Can you believe it? Here's to many more years of the team helping make it a positive difference out there. Thank you so much. Of course, this is all the mob crew, Ty, Bree, people that have searched before. Of course, I can't name everybody, but everybody, it's a big team effort. But there's something that hit me today that really just stuck out to me. So I'm going to kind of explain it. So again, that's where the shoes were found. I am going to skip forward here to the big thing I was talking about. So one more thing before I get to the big clue. Again, this is what we want to focus on, is a 0.5 mile radius around the shoe. Gwen Brunell's case, they found her remains 0.7 miles, so just beyond that 0.5 mile radius, but within the 1 mile ring. But of course, we need to do the same exact thing, even though when we're looking at it from Google Earth, it is much, much bigger and vast. And right now, it's just been really the three of us searching, and we can only cover so much ground in a day. It takes hours to get out there, tons of money. Again, so if anybody's coming in, if you would like to help, donate and support, we got Venmo, PayPal. I also need to help out Ty, because he takes his truck out there. It costs him a lot of gas money as well. But let's talk about the clue. So here's some of the areas that we have searched on foot, grid searched. We're close together. We are tying off ribbons on just about every other tree, because all the searches before, they were never grid searches. They were just... they were kind of looking for tracks, those first few days, they were really just following his tracks, so they had something to go off of. But once they got into this valley and they got to his last tracks, they lost him. And then they just kind of did searches, but they didn't really do grid searches, unfortunately. And so I was staring at this picture today, along with staring at drone footage for hours on hours. And that's when it hit me. As you can see, we've got a footprint. I'm not sure if this is a sock print. I don't really see the circles. So this could be a barefoot print or him in his socks. But since it was very wet out there, because it rains during that time of year, and of course snows, you get obviously the soil's wet, which is nice if you're tracking, because the footprint kind of gets embedded. It's kind of muddy and it goes down, and it kind of preserves the footprint or tracks, and that's what kind of helped them track Aiden for the most part. But as you can see here, there is snow on the left. And so started thinking about it, and here's another photo. So this is two different, let's see, is this the same one flipped? I think this is, let me look at this one. There's a stick in the middle. Oh, nope, this is two different ones. Even though that's kind of wild, there's a stick in the middle of both of them. Because there's a stick right here in the snow, and there's a stick in the middle of the shoe print, or footprint, excuse me. But as you can see, yeah, the stick was laying this way, right? Yeah. So this is a different footprint, which is kind of wild because you got another stick right here. So this is a different footprint, but what do we see? We got snow again. Anyway, so I was looking at this, and I'm going to show you guys. Again, we're looking at the area where his tracks were last seen, which is where up here. And it kind of hit me that, so you got to think of the time. So when he was out there, there may have been a little bit of snow, but it wasn't until after that night is when it snowed a little bit. And then a few days later, on I think May 1st, which actually they had to cancel, the weather was really bad. It was raining and snowing. So when the trackers came back on May 2nd, there was more snow out there. And the snow tends to kind of stay in, obviously, areas where the sun can't hit and in what we call the washes that come down. And so this is what I think happened. And hopefully you guys can see this, is, he's kind of walking around in this valley. And at the time, there probably wasn't much snow. But of course, by the time the trackers got out there, the snow, of course, had started covering those tracks. So, they'd kind of see them, and then they would lose them. And then they would pick them up again, and then lose them. And interestingly enough, they had lost his tracks up here in this kind of wash. It looked like he had circled a tree. And then there's two. This is another issue with this case, is one of the reports say that his last tracks were east to west and they were all barefoot. Then you have another report that says one of them's barefoot, but the last two tracks were footprints, meaning they had shoes on. But I'm kind of thinking maybe the original one where it was barefoot could have been right. And what would have been the issue is, let's say he did have tracks and they did see him, but then, of course, when they come out, they can only see the ones that are outside the snow. And let's say he traveled up this wash and they go out there searching. Well, now they don't see him because the snow has now covered them, unfortunately. And they lost the tracks. And I think it is a great possibility. And I know we said before, we don't think he went up and over. But I'll tell you guys, they have never searched on the other side. No searches have been conducted. We did peak the mountain range, but we were kind of one valley over. We actually went up here and went to the left. So we have not actually gone up and over this. And this ridge would have been slightly lower, even though it'd still be very difficult. Considering what he's done, we cannot rule this out. And now knowing that they have never searched the other side of this, and being at, it's probably 8 p.m. at this point. Here is a picture of Google Earth. I could only find certain Google Earth pictures that are, years back. And as you can see where his last footprints were, you can see where the snow has built up. I couldn't find other ones, but obviously if we started going back more towards winter, you would see snow starting to build up more and more in these valleys where the wash is at. And so I think it's a big possibility that the reason why they never picked up his tracks is because he ended up going up this, because they had searched all of the major dirt roads. Of course, they didn't do grid searches, but they did do a lot of searching around here and never was able to pick up his tracks. To me, I think he went up, and there's another reason I think he went up as well. And this is to simulate the time of day and what he would experience. Just give it a second here. I was trying to get it to work, and I'll check chat here in just a second. But I think he strolled up. Of course, there probably was little to no snow in that area. And then, of course, sadly, when the searchers came, there would have been much more snow, because in those pockets, of course, the sun doesn't reach it as well. And so it's the last bit of snow that's going to dry up. And so this would probably, he would be up in this area. There we go. And as it gets dark, notice this area is getting dark, yet this valley would still be slightly lit up because the sun, and I'll angle the mouse over. But this would have been close to 8 p.m. And see how the sun goes down? So let me know what you think in the chat. But if you were up on this, you're about halfway up, and it's 8 p.m., you see the sun over in the west. This is kind of west. You've got the valley still lit up on the other side of you, but yet behind you and down is a dark wooded forest that you're not from. I mean, yeah, you had been walking through it earlier, but you're not familiar with it. Let me know what would you do in the chat. Would you go up, or would you go back down into that dark forest full of fire ants, spiders? I guess there are rattlesnakes out there. I haven't seen any. Mountain lions. Or would you go for the peak where you'd still be able to see the sun and the valley on the other side? And to me, I think that's what he did. And that's why they lost his tracks, is I think he went up that little wash. And then, of course, when the tractors came, snow had came down, covered those tracks, and they were never able to pick up his tracks again. But as you can see, there still would have been light over in this other valley due to where the position of the sun is and the time of year. And personally, I wouldn't want to go back down into that dark forest full of scary things. And I would want to go towards the light. So let me get to chat for a minute here, but that is, to me, I think he's up over this valley, and I'll talk about a couple more things that even add to that here in just a second, but I need to get caught up on chat. Rainy Days sent a Venmo. Thank you so much, Rainy Days. I'll kind of check it here as we go. Thank you so much, Raina. Every little bit helps. You are so sweet. Thank you so much. And happy birthday to Dom, who's been an amazing supporter. Of course, yes, Ty has been amazing. He put a lot of wear and tear in his truck. We gave him some gas money last time. Hopefully we can get enough, to help him out again. We'll talk about the dogs here in a minute. Peyton, on PayPal. Thank you so much, Peyton. Yeah, if you did through Venmo or PayPal, just put it in the chat so I can shout you out. Sometimes PayPal and Venmo, I don't get the thing until like 10 minutes, 30 minutes later sometimes. Was his track that was barefoot going up? See, that's the thing, Cinnabe, is one report says they were barefoot east to west. And then there was a second report that said one was barefoot towards the bottom, but the other two were not. But I think the original report was right. Isabel gifting 5 Mob Crew memberships. Thank you so much, Isabel. I have tons of member-only stuff. So I really appreciate it. If you did get gifted by Isabel, if you could thank her, that is so awesome. Thank you so much. And my wonderful mod, Jennifer, wish I had more to give. Thank you so much for the $1.99. Every little bit helps. John Leon, good to see you. Thank you so much for the $1.99. Appreciate it. That is so awesome. Again, when we find him, this is going to be a team effort. So let me continue a little bit and explain a few more clues that also point towards I think he went up and over. I know that we did peek this and said that hell no, there's no way he had the energy to do this. But now looking at that clue and where he was at, the peak that he was under is slightly shorter. It's not as tall as the one that we did. It's close, but it wouldn't be as difficult. I mean, it'd still be difficult. But again, you're halfway up there already, and it's 8 o'clock, and it's getting dark by the minute. In my opinion, I don't want to go back down. I don't want to go back down there because it's getting dark, and you're not going to be able to see anything. And the only thing right now is you can see that over on beyond is there's still some light, and maybe you can go to the top and scan to see where you can go. But to me, for them losing his tracks means that it was because his tracks were in snow. That's the biggest point. And the biggest areas of where snow is at, clearly, apologize here, is in areas just like this, where what we call washes, where, we got these different washes, because obviously the sun doesn't hit it all the way because it's cut in. And so this is the snow that takes the longest to obviously dry out. And even as I could find on Google Earth, unfortunately there wasn't much, but I was able to find at least that one Google Earth image kind of explains where that snow will last even in the summertime, or at least the early summertime. And continuing on, yes, they did bring dogs out, allegedly. But in that report, they said that they saw birds circling. And interestingly enough, that lady, I believe it was the dog handler, she had noted something. And let me pull up Google Earth. Zoom in here. And she had noted something right in here. And I think either that was maybe the bird circling or something else. But that was interesting that the dog handler in her report at the top says bird circling. And then somewhere in the report, or on the Caltopo or whatever app she was using, had placed a pin, just like how I have these pins here, had placed a pin here, which I thought was very interesting. And that is directly up from where I was talking about. And it's quite possible, I think he did, maybe through adrenaline, at that point, it's 8 p.m., it's getting dark. And I think he went up, because you pull out paint real quick here, and then I'll get to chat. I apologize. Just trying to get all the points in that I can. I did a lot of researching on his movements, all the reports. And let me move this over. Well, I think you guys can see it, but actually this is probably too sorry. Let me find one that doesn't got all the stuff on it. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So we could see a lot of where they had searched, and it kind of looked like this. It had like the main roads, like this. We know they had the grid search on the south part of the burn. I'll show you that here in just a second. So this area here, the only place they grid searched was this area at the burn. They kind of searched like that. And then, of course, the main roads, they kind of searched like that. And then they kind of cut through here, kind of cut through here. But, of course, no grid searching in here. But I think they were trying to pick up his tracks again, because it seems that throughout the time they were tracking Aiden. When we go back to the original ones, what would happen is, so as you can see, there's a big group of tracks that they found, and they are all 428. And then, of course, they lost them. I think it just, was kind of the end of the day. Then they picked him up on 429. Unfortunately, I wish they would have detailed his tracks, but they said he came up in here, came down. Then they lost him at 429, or it might have been the end of the day. Then on the 30th, I think that's when there was a storm, and that's when maybe a lot of the snow came in and probably covered these tracks up here. And then now, when they come in on May 1st and May 2nd, they're trying to find tracks. They see them, but then they lose them, probably because there's, again, now snow in here. And it was just kind of an off and on thing. They find his tracks. And then, of course, probably the snow probably threw him off, or maybe something else. And then again, we've got the final tracks. And to me, this little pocket would have had a lot of snow in it. And if they did not pick up, if he came back, you would think they would have picked up his tracks again and would have led somewhere out. But again, they had a border. That's basically the thing I'm trying to point out in this case here, is they had a border from where his last tracks were. So if he came back down into the valley and made it out, not saying it's not possible he made it through and they missed his tracks. That's certainly possible. But to me, after looking at that snow, to me that really makes sense. So I'm going to leave that up for a minute so I can get to chat real quick. This yellow areas are where we have searched, and we're talking grid searched thoroughly. And that's not including my drone. My drone has covered probably 60% of the lower valley. But we still got a lot to do. But I personally want to go up. I want to check this out up here, due to the dog handler putting a pin on that and saying there's a point of interest, but clearly they never went up there. And then, of course, law enforcement and search and rescue said we have never searched anywhere up above the peak and beyond. So I think with all those details, I really think he's up over that. Rainy Day says, good point. You're so intelligent. I appreciate that. I just looking at the details and putting the best case scenario together. Kim says, you try to find some kind of shelter, caves in that area. We've been, and the interesting thing is there actually is a little bit of caves up there. I wouldn't describe them as caves. I would really describe them as like 5-foot holes in a rock face. And they're actually up at the top areas. Jessica says most people would try to find a place to get a good view of the area around you. Right. A lot of people saying, yeah, up definitely. Patty says, I would go up and over. Again, yep. This is Nevada, Mustang. This is northeastern Nevada. And even though that terrain, a lot of that terrain would be tough, socks or, barefoot or socks, again, that's going to be really tough to travel on. You're walking on. So let me just kind of play some of the stuff we're walking on here. You're walking on pine cones. You're walking on rocks. Sometimes you'll get some little areas that are smooth, and are not as bad. But a lot of times, the terrain switches really fast where, it's kind of smooth, like this area here, and then you got a bunch of sticks, pine cones, rocks, logs. Then you get into a bunch of brush, sagebrush, tons of different things that are going to slow you down, or in the case if you're wearing socks or barefoot, I'm sure it is not comfortable. And I feel terrible for him to have to be walking through that. But the reason why I brought up Gwen Brunell's case is so here is a look at the area where Gwen Brunell went missing, the terrain that she went through, and she traveled 0.7 miles barefoot through this terrain. And as we look, this terrain is fairly similar to the terrain that is in the Cherry Creek mountain range. I would say there's probably a little bit more adversity and obstacles in Cherry Creek, but for the most part, it's really mostly kind of a lot similar. So that's why I thought it was interesting that we just can't discount that, even though when we did hit the peak and said, God, there's no way he did this. Now looking back at her case and seeing how far she traveled barefoot, tells me that Aiden certainly could have done it as well. And knowing that they hadn't searched on the west side, and with the tracks being lost, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they lost his tracks, which is in a wash. So this area right here, this video right here, I'm not sure which tree it is. This is where they lost his tracks. And during that time, there would have been snow in here. So this little pocket, I'm just going to pause it real quick. This little pocket that we're looking at is right like that. We're just kind of looking at it kind of right like that. Back it up just a little bit. Notice, so here's kind of the wash here. And that is the area where his last footprints were at. And even maybe without snow, but I'm pretty sure there'd be snow in there. You would look how thick it is with the sage and brush in that area right there. It'd be really hard to see tracks there. Craig and Echo, good call, Chris. I'd stay where I could see best. I agree. Again, it really hit me when I had pulled that Google Earth up and kind of simulating it getting dark. And it's like, yeah, I don't want to go down in this valley. Again, there's fire ant hills literally everywhere. And if he's barefoot, because there's another thing that makes you wonder, since he was taking his shoes off constantly, was there a point where he might have lost his socks at some point because he kept doing that? And now he's just with his shoes and no socks. And so that's also maybe kind of rubbing his feet raw as he's doing that, maybe getting blisters. And so now he's taking his shoes off because of that, possibly. And then, yeah, I know that he had to come across these fire ant hills that are everywhere, and stepping on one of those would suck. And knowing that those are spread out everywhere in this vast range, along with everything else that's in there, I would prefer to go up. I'm sorry, Dom. I don't know what's going on. Please, this is all about Aiden. Please be respectful in the chat. We're all adults. We can agree to disagree. I don't know what's going on or the context. All I know is it's Dom's birthday, and Dom's been an amazing supporter. I don't know what's going on. Let's everybody the goal is to bring Aiden home. And he says, why would he leave his shoes behind? It's a good question. That's why I was talking about perhaps maybe he lost his socks. Maybe he didn't have socks to begin with. And traveling all that way, he was taking them off because, it was hurting his feet. We don't know, unfortunately. But maybe he took them off. Maybe he wanted to set them down and get his bearings for a minute. Maybe he's trying to use his phone. It's no coincidence that area that he set his shoes down, or if he assuming he set his shoes down, not far from that area is where you get the cell phone service. We've talked about that in the past. That's kind of what led us to this area. Perhaps he was trying to make a phone call or something. And maybe he started wandering around. He set his shoes down and maybe he's trying to get a signal. Then forgot where he set his shoes down. And now it's getting late. It's getting dark. And unfortunately now, time's running out. Miss Vicky, I agree, Chris. I would go up following the light. I agree. Pam, thank you so much for the $1.99. That is so awesome. And thank you so much, Miss Vicky, as well. Looking at chat here. Cheryl, thank you so much for the $5. Again, every little bit helps. We are so close to finding him. And again, just sadly, it just costs a lot of money to go out there. But again, every little bit helps, and we are going to bring him home. But it seems like a lot of people agree. You would probably want to go up. And again, I think it lines up with the snow being in that area, and then the two reports, one saying it was barefoot going all the way up, and the other one saying the opposite. But I think probably the first one was probably right. And he continued up, and they just lost his tracks. So, it is really beautiful out there. I can see why Aiden was out in that area. May have been out there to think and take in the nature. Yeah, Jackie. Yeah, he had his guitar with him. I really think he was really trying to clear his head. You can't really rationalize mental health. It's such a terrible issue. But you just can't discount what a human being can do and what they're capable of. Just like I said with Gwen Brunell, she traveled barefoot nearly a mile through some terrain that is fairly similar to this case here with Aiden. They are so much alike. And I just going back, we were going to go search for Gwen, but they had just found her. So I think there's, in a way, it's like everything happens for a reason. I really believe that. And them finding Gwen led us to go back into searching for Aiden. And now we've gotten to this point where we have finally found the first physical evidence, the shoes. And now it's just a little bit more, push to find Aiden. It's going to take a little bit more, but I think we need to go up. And what's the biggest thing, what's great is, I'm going to be honest, my drone isn't the best when it comes to this kind of terrain. It's not the best, unfortunately. There's open areas that I can fly that, the drone helps, but it's tough. I can't really, I try to get an angle where I can see under the trees, but they're so thick I can easily have flown over something and miss it because the trees. But when it comes to these areas here, this is where the drone is going to be at its best potential, and all of this has not been droned, and this is where what I can do will come into I can really cover a lot of ground with the drone in this particular environment and terrain, saving a lot of time. And then if I spot something with the drone, then we can go and search it further. But it would save a lot of time with the drone getting up there on the peak and droning all of this. Unfortunately, when we peaked it over here, I started droning a little bit, and then bam, the wind came in and the weather got bad. I had to pull the drone back in, and unfortunately I didn't get to drone as much as I wanted to. But I really think it's possible it could be in here or not far down the valley in here, because fortunately, again, the temperature would just be dropping crazy. If you have any questions, we'll stick around for 10 minutes. If I missed a question earlier that you had, please put it in the chat again. I'd be happy to answer anything you guys have. Again, thank you to everybody that supports the channel. I'm just going to let some of the drone footage play while I answer some questions. But I would like to go this weekend. Today is Thursday. I would like to go Saturday. It's just kind of coming up with the funds. And I know so many people have donated. And I am not the person that likes to beg for money. I don't like doing that. I feel like if people donate, that's great. But in this case, in this scenario, I am just... It costs a lot. And unfortunately, the only way to get back out there is to build up some funds. But I promise they will go to great use. I do too, Pam. I really do. And considering what he was able to do, I would say there's definitely a certain percentage that he made it out. But I think the odds are highly against him on that one, especially after finding the shoes. That's really going to, unless in some way he had two pairs, that's really going to slow him down, because he's going to be stepping on stuff, even with the socks, and that's going to hurt his feet. That's going to slow him down immensely. And he is now 10 miles easily, and that's just 10 miles straight. That would more equal 12 miles that he would have to walk to the nearest highway. And the temperature would be now dropping down to the 30s, and he doesn't have the proper clothing for that kind of temperature. Mitzi, Chris, you're an exceptional human being. Thank you for all you do. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, as a matter of fact, Bunchy, the tree we were probably just looking at, here's the tree. Give me a second. The last tree he circled, is that back here? Yeah, here we go. The last tree he circled, I believe, was this one. Yes, we've searched that multiple times. As a matter of fact, when we found the shoes, they went back out in that area. But, yeah, that, I'm pretty sure that was the tree right there. Sorry. Oh, gosh.
Staying the night
Sorry,
at this
I
Motel
apologize.
6 in the town of Wells. On April 27, 2022, Aiden Clune woke.
My apologies. I wanted to pause that. Right there. So yeah, this is the last area right here. Rewatch crew. That's a great name. That's awesome. Thank you so much for the $3. That is really awesome. Christine Johnson, really concerning a civilian like mob crew found evidence of Aidan Clune, and law enforcement could find this or any significance to the disappearance of Aidan. Well done, mob crew. You know, they've done great work. It's possible maybe the shoes were covered in snow at the time. Again, his shoes were found in an area that was in a wash. So, you know, we kind of count these little divots as washes. And obviously this is what snow would kind of probably melt the last. And his shoes, this area is super steep. And there's a few areas that you can kind of cut across that are much safer, kind of above and below. So I could see as the searchers would probably, because here's the road, this is where you could park. You can see the trails. These are animal trails. They'd probably use these and cut across. So I can see how they'd easily miss those shoes. You know, they're black. They were probably both originally sitting under that same tree. And it's just so vast. But yeah, it was a shock when we found it. Mitzi, again, with the $2. Love Mob Crew. Thank you guys so much. You guys are so amazing. What peak is that where he is showing? So the peak that we were showing is this peak. This is Cherry Creek Mountain Range. You have, it's not labeled. This is Cottonwood Canyon right here. This is Silo Canyon. I'll just zoom out. So you have the highway here. You have Palomino Ridge. And then as you travel in, you have the burn. This is a very helpful piece of land that, you know, kind of, you know, it's a landmark that we kind of use. And then the peak is kind of close to the main peak in Cherry Creek, I believe. Well, I guess the main peak is up here. But, yeah. But again, this area has not been searched by searchers, us, and I think with the snow. And I'll just replay that one thing one more time just to kind of simulate for those that missed it. You're up at this altitude right here. This is a perfect thing right here. You're up at this altitude, and this is what you're kind of looking at. It is getting dark in the valley that you just came from. You can see that there's still some light in the valley next to you. And I think Chad agreed that you would want to most likely go up. You're kind of halfway there anyway. And I would probably want to go up, because if you go down, you're going down into a dark forest that you're not familiar with, and it's unforgiving and treacherous. Just me, JB, Chris, you guys are so close to finding them. I hope this helps. It will. Thank you so much, Just Me. You guys truly are amazing. I don't know, Sierra. But yeah, that it just depends. Because of that altitude, it could snow in the summertime. I mean, apparently it just snowed recently. But of course, when it gets summertime, it'll dry pretty quickly because of the heat. But in April and May, the snow is still up there because, you know, at that elevation, it's it's in pockets where the sun doesn't really hit it that well. And yeah. Okay, so hopefully I got everybody. Let me just hit play for a second so I can just check my phone before we head out. If you have any more questions, I'll try to get one or two in. And I thank you so much to the mods. I know I'm in kind of late. Again, Rainy, thank you so much for the Venmo. That helps me out so much. Tara, Andrea, they had donated earlier. Tom, these are some from a week before, but again, sometimes I can't see him for a bit. I don't know why. But if you donated and I missed you, I promise you I'll get you in the next show. But again, I thank you, everybody. Again, I am just an extension. This channel is really just a group, and I am just kind of like the avatar, whatever you want to call it. And really, if we do find him, this is all going to be a group effort. And you guys should... I can't thank you guys enough. This is such an amazing community, and this is what I built my channel. This is what it was all about. And finding missing people are not easy. And it takes a lot of work. It costs a lot of money. But if you stick with it, we will be able to help families. And Amy Clune, the mother of Aiden, she's going through a tough time. We found her shoes, and know that we've been out there looking, and it's going to take a little bit more effort, but I think we're going to try to go out Saturday. I am going up to that peak with the drone that everybody helped pitch in for, and hopefully we find him soon and we can bring Aiden home so he can have a proper burial. Molly, thank you so much. That is so awesome. I did update my Patreons as well. Jackie says this channel is really amazing, great group of people. We are, and that's just because we're the community that cares and wants to help people, and it's truly amazing. So I just want to shout out my mods: Copper Horse, Karen Lee, Dee, Jocelyn, Jennifer, Michelle. Such amazing mods. If you have any questions, you can always ask them. We'll have a live tomorrow. I'm planning to go Saturday, so I may have a live maybe earlier, mods, maybe 1 hour earlier than the normal 7 p.m. Eastern time. So probably 6 p.m. Eastern time. And then we'll go from there. Patty, thank you so much for the $5 super sticker. Again, and anybody if I missed, I promise I'll get you in the next show. And with that, I just uploaded stuff for the members and Patreons. I've also got some more, not drone footage, but kind of behind the scenes. We had some funny things with some cows crossing in front of the street or dirt road as we were trying to get through. It was kind of cute and funny. So I'm going to upload that to the members. Try to get it out tonight, maybe tomorrow morning. It's really funny. Bungee Cord, thank you so much. Let's see. I'm just seeing if there's any other questions. But it seems like a lot of people. Oh, Tree Squirrel. I'm sorry, I missed yours. Canadian, $20. Thank you so much, Tree Squirrel. Awesome. Thank you so much. Truly amazing. And I love your name as well. Yes, there's cougars, elk, deer, cows, wild mustangs, a lot of fire ant hills everywhere. I think rattlesnakes, jackrabbits, and a few other critters out there. But yeah, that's kind of the bulk of it. No bears. So, all right, guys, I'm going to end it there. I don't want to keep rambling on. Thank you guys so much. I love you guys so, so much. Huge shout out to Ty and Bree. I think they went out there today. I don't know if they found anything. They would probably notify me. No coyotes. I don't think there's coyotes out there. We have coyotes here in Utah. I don't know if that's maybe because of the mountain lions. They would be the apex, so they probably... Maybe there's a sparse amount of them out there, but... Yeah, I don't think there's coyotes in that area. So... But again, live tomorrow, and then we'll be back out there Saturday, and we are going to go up to that peak. And I really think he's up there or just over the other side there. So have a great rest of your Thursday and Friday, and we will see you guys tomorrow. I love you guys. I am going to put a outro right now.